السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له. نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمد عبده ورسوله. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واضرب لهم مثلا الرجلين جعلنا لأحدهما جنتين من أعناب وحففناهما بنخل وجعلنا بينهما زرعا كلتا الجنتين آتت أكلها ولم تظلم منه شيئا وفجرنا خلالهما نهرا وكان له ثمر فقال لصاحبه وهو يحاوره أنا أكثر منك مالا وأعز نفرا. صدق الله العظيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed throughout different phases of our life blessings, if you want to think of it as that, and tests, which can also be considered a blessing as well. And one of the greatest tests that He has placed upon us all, whether we have the ni'mah of having abundant wealth or the ni'mah of having less wealth. And we all love to hear stories. So one of the most important stories when it comes to wealth, the test of wealth in Surah Kahf, is مثل الرجلين, is the test where one individual was given two massive gardens. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm going to basically go verse by verse how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the story. It's kind of similar to Yusuf alayhi salam's story, where the detail is given in quite a nice order, as comparison to other surahs where some of the details are mentioned here, then another surah, or a couple pages later. Here the qissa is mentioned in back-to-back verses, like 10 to 15 verses. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts mentioning this story, and it's from amongst these two individuals from Banu Israel. One of them is a kafir and one of them is a Muslim. The Muslim's name is Yahud and the kafir's name is Qatrus. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that, O Messenger of Allah, we mentioned in the Quran the example of two men. And the disbelieving, the kafir man, we gave him these two gardens. Notice the word. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses jannatain. Just like how we talk about in the akhirah that the Muslims inshallah will get jannah. This is the same word Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses for this kafir, that he has been given jannatain. Remember this because I'm going to come back to that later on. And he describes this massive jannah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed with this individual. He says, we given him two gardens of grapevines. And grapevines, if you know, and if you plant fruits and vegetables, they are a little bit on the weak end. They're a little bit weaker, and you have to kind of be careful and manage them a little bit more. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said He gave these grapevines and He surrounded them with these date palm trees. Yeah? وَحَفَفْنَاهُمَا بِنَخْلٍ, He surrounded these grapevines with these date palm trees. وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمَا زَرْعًا, and He surrounded them and placed various crops in between them. You want to think about those farmers, you want to think about cross-pollination or whatever you have, there is a lot of opportunities, to say the least, with this garden. So he continues to describe, and keep in mind, the stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, He doesn't mention every single detail. But you'll notice when He's talking about these two jannahs, the gardens of this individual, He gives quite a bit of detail. Okay, quite a bit of detail He gives. So he mentions كِلْتَ الْجَنَّتَيْنِ آتَتْ أُكُلَهَا وَلَمْ تَظْلِمْ مِنْهُ شَيْئًا, that each garden, each of the two Jannahs yielded all of its produce, and it never fell short. And on top of that, what was irrigating it? There was a وَفَجَّرْنَا خِلَالَهُمَا نَهَرًا. He didn't need to like water the plant, like we have to water our garden, water the produce so it continues to grow. It's very hot for a few. There was a river there, automatic, just self-sustaining. Didn't need to take care of it much. Didn't need to place any traps for any animals not to come in. It was self-sustaining. The فَجَّرْنَا خِلَالَهُمَا نَهَرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed a river. And on top of that, he describes, and there we can talk about this verse in a few different lenses. He says, وَكَانَ لَهُ ثَمَرٌ. This guy, the kafir, right? The kafir, وَكَانَ لَهُ ثَمَرٌ. He had thamar in Arabic, we say is what? Fruits, right? Fruits and produce. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already talked about this guy having fruits and produce. So وَكَانَ لَهُ ثَمَرٌ, the Mufassirun mentioned that he had other aspects of wealth as well. He had gold, he had silver, he had horses, he had what have you. Other sources as well. Other resources besides just the produce in the garden. Because he already talked about the garden. And he already talked about the fruits that it had there. So وَكَانَ لَهُ ثَمَرٌ. This guy, he had a lot of other resources. So when you have, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with many resources, sometimes it gets to your head. So he had a friend, a companion that we talked about, the believer. Well, he started talking to him. فَقَالَ لِصَاحِبِهِ وَهُوَ يُحَاوِرُهُ. And he started to kind of have a conversation. أَنَا أَكْثَرُ مِنْكَ مَالًا وَأَعَزُّ نَفَرًا. I'm better than you. Why? Because of everything else that was just mentioned in the previous two verses. I got these two Jannahs, they have these grapevines, they're surrounded by date palm trees, they're protected with, and it has water, it has all of these things. And on top of that, I have wealth upon wealth. So, أَنَا أَكْثَرُ مِنْكَ مَالًا وَأَعَزُّ نَفَرًا. Not only do I have more wealth, but my lineage is better, I have more children, I'm better than everything, I'm better at life than you. He's telling him. He's telling his companion this straight up. No. So, obviously, when you're a believer, you have your mindset, you have your head on right, and you know what true wealth is versus, quote unquote, temporal wealth. So, as a friend, as a companion, obviously, you want to advise your companion and tell him, okay, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with this, but just because you have wealth doesn't make you better than anybody else. Just because you have a quote-unquote better lineage doesn't make you better than me. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us a lesson that yes, maybe He has blessed you with X, Y, and Z, car or house or that, what have you. That doesn't equate to you being in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a maqbool person. Doesn't mean that. It could, where you use your wealth for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You use your time for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your kids as sadaqah jariyah, they are studying, memorizing Quran, becoming scholars of the deen, or making an impact in society as a Muslim should. But that's not a proof that you have made it. Oh, alhamdulillah, we talk about it, even in college, university. Oh, when I got this job, when I get this raise, oh, I made it. You didn't make it. How do you know you made it? But who told you that you made it? Your disbelieving teacher? Your disbelieving friend? Your disbelieving boss? They told you that you made it? They don't know the difference. They don't even know who their khaliq is. What good is their advice going to be in terms of the akhirah? No? So he's giving him an advice. His friend is giving his non-Muslim friend some advice. And continues the story, وَدَخَلَ جَنَّتَهُ وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. Keep in mind that the wording that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses. So this guy, he enters his Jannah. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, he enters his garden, his beautiful gardens that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed him with. وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ. ظالم, very strong, powerful word. ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. He is oppressor of himself. He is oppressing himself. He's doing dhulm to himself. When we hear the word dhulm, we like, man, that's very strong. Or, he's doing dhulm to another person. We think, bullying or physical beating or some type of abuse taking place. He did dhulm to himself. How did he do dhulm to himself? because he number one, he was a disbeliever. So he didn't accept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the Khaliq. Number two, he was a kafir in another sense. Kafir kafara also means to be ungrateful. So when you talk about kufr, when you hear the word kufr in the Quran, it doesn't automatically refer to a disbeliever. Nam kufranu ni'ma. لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَلَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ, if you're grateful, لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ, I'll give you more. وَلَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ, same word, kufr. And if you are ungrateful, وَلَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ, and my punishment is massive. And then everybody knows the meaning of kufr in terms of opposite of iman. That's in terms of disbelief of the deen. So this man, he was a zalim to himself in both sense. Yani he was ungrateful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him this wealth, and he was also a kafir. And on top of that, how do we know that? We see in the verses that he says right after that, قَالَ مَا أَظُنُّ أَن تَبِيدَ هَذِهِ أَبَدًا, that I don't think that, this Jannah that I have, alhamdulillah, I don't think it's going to ever perish. I don't think it's going to ever perish. So he was very arrogant in that sense. وَمَا أَظُنُّ السَّاعَةَ قَائِمَةً وَلَئِن رُدِدتُّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي لَأَجِدَنَّ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا مُنْقَلَبًا. And on top of that, I know I'm supposed to believe in the akhir, but I don't think that the qiyamah is going to take place. No? And let's just say hypothetically it does take place. Hypothetically it does take place. لَأَجِدَنَّ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا مُنْقَلَبًا. He for some reason has in his messed up mind that I'm going to have something even better than this Jannah in that Jannah. I'm going to have something even better. That's what he was thinking. لَأَجِدَنَّ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا مُنْقَلَبًا. So قال له صاحبه وهو يحاوره أكفرت بالذي خلقك من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم سواك رجلا. His Muslim friends started to advise him. He's like, man, listen up. Number one, you're disbelieving in your Khaliq. You're disbelieving in the one who created you from dirt. Then he created you from the most despicable thing that you can ever think of, which is a nutfa, this despicable fluid. You are already forgetting your origin. ثُمَّ سَوَّاكَ رَجُلًا. Then he made you into the man that you are. لَكِنَّهُ اللَّهُ رَبِّي وَلَا أُشْرِكُ بِرَبِّي أَحَدًا. But as far as me, he is Allah. He is my Lord. I will never do shirk with him. وَلَوْلَا إِذْ دَخَلْتَ جَنَّتَكَ قُلْتَ مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ إِن تَرَنِي أَنَا أَقَلَّ مِنْكَ مَالًا وَوَلَدًا. He's giving him advice. You had this mindset. You entered your garden and you said that, oh, I have this, I have that. You don't have anything. This is what you should have done. He's telling you this is what the proper Muslim mindset is. That when you see something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with, or when you see something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed somebody else with, then what do you say? He says, قُلْتَ مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. That's where we have this phrase within our Muslim society, our Muslim community. When we see something great and we want that individual to keep it, مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. That you say this, what a beautiful deed, what a beautiful thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed this individual with. There is no power except that it belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No. Then he says that even though you see me as inferior in wealth and in offspring, you will see. Right? You will see. That's why Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, he mentioned that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that whoever sees something and they actually like it, then this is the phrase that should come out of their mouth. Ma sha Allah la quwwata illa billah. Then that will save and protect that individual from evil eye. Because it happens, mashallah, we see somebody's car, we see somebody's house, we see somebody, whatever the case may be. And we say, oh, subhanallah, I wish I had that. I wish I had it. It's human nature. Human nature. So as Muslims, we want to have that mindset that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with in our life, number one. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed your friends and your co-workers or what have you, then you make sure that you protect them from yourself. Okay? From doing dhulm upon them by the evil eye, by these other aspects. فَعَسَى رَبِّي أَن يُؤْتِيَنِي خَيْرًا مِنْ جَنَّتِكَ وَيُرْسِلَ عَلَيْهَا حُسْبَانًا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ فَتُصْبِحَ سَعِيدًا زَلَقًا. That perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant me something better than your garden. And your garden, maybe something will happen to it because you're so arrogant. Maybe something will happen. Oh, يصبح ماؤها غورا فلن تستطيع له طلبا. Or that water that was irrigating that land, maybe that will go, that will go down in the earth. It will become dry. وأحيط بثمره فأصبح يقلب كفيه على ما أنفق فيها وهي خاوية على عروشها. What happened? What happened to his gardens? Everything was destroyed. Everything, top to bottom, completely leveled. No. وَلَمْ تَكُنْ لَهُ فِئَةٌ يَنْصُرُونَهُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ وَمَا كَانَ مُنْتَصِرًا. This guy had no manpower against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody to help him. وَمَا كَانَ مُنْتَصِرًا. He couldn't even help himself. هُنَالِكَ الْوَلَايَةُ لِلَّهِ الْحَقِّ هُوَ خَيْرٌ ثَوَابًا وَخَيْرٌ عُقْبًا. At this time, يعني in Qiyamah, support will only come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one that will be rewarding. He is the one that will be recompensing these individuals. So we take our take-home point from this story, and you can take many lessons from this story. But one point that kind of sticks out is as a Muslim, every single action starts with the proper mindset. That's where it all begins. If that mindset is not correct, then that action is going to end up being batil. And you will most definitely be rewarded and punished according to that action and according to that mindset. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have the proper niyyah and have the proper mindset. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.